And hello once again to a fabulous Tuesday evening. My name is Dale, and I am the host of Seeking Vibes, and I appreciate everybody who's being here today. We have one hell of a show for you today. A guest that I've admired for a long time, friends. Like I said, somebody who has really been really supportive in everything that I do in the paranormal community and in my own adventures. And this is one of those adventures that I am so proud that I get to come to you each and every week, bringing you inspirational stories, motivational stories, and people that are just their spiritual energy is so overwhelming that it's just mind boggling. But so before I bring out this guest, though, each and every week, I like to start off the show with something that I love to talk about, which is music. So I often say when you're having a great day, you enjoy the music, but when you're having a bad day, you understand the lyrics. So right now, I'd like to share just a little bit of a song that it is one of these songs that every time it comes on, it it just it just kind of gives me that energy. I use this song when I'm working out. So this is a song called Unstoppable. So I'm just going to read just a little bit of the lyrics. Some of the lyrics that have really stand out to me from time to time. It says, "Break down, only alone I will cry out loud. You'll never see me you'll never see what's hiding out or hidden down deep down. Yeah, I know I've learned that to let your feelings show is the only way to make friendship grow. But I'm too afraid. I put my armor on to show you how strong I am. I'll put my armor on to show you that I am." And that is something that is very new to me. It's only been in the last few years have I actually let people around me see who the raw person that I am and the growth that I'm making. So it is to open up to all my friends to show them who I am and let them know I'm not the perfect person because I don't believe anybody is a perfect person. Everybody has their faults, everybody has their way, but I mean it doesn't mean that they're bad because they're not perfect like who you think what perfect would be like. And that brings me to my guest today because this lady I met, I want to say it's been about at least 2 to 3 years ago because I think it was the first year that me and Michael John debuted the Paranormal Voice. So yeah, I'm thinking it was about 3 years ago now. I could be wrong. She'll correct me. She's good at that. But no, from the moment we started talking, it was like somebody, it's one of those people you meet, but yet after 5 minutes of talking, you feel like you've known this person for absolutely ever. So it's been a true blessing getting to know her and to knowing everything that she does. So yeah, and I'm very grateful that she's agreed to come on and do the show because we are going to strip away what the public knows about her to get into who she is in real life and the things in her journey and how she got to where she is today. Because I'll tell you, being out in the public, it is a hard thing because, I think you kind of put yourself out there to be picked on and to become very vulnerable when you put yourself out there on a YouTube stream or just out there in public for general. So right now, without further ado, I'd like to bring out my dear friend, Miss Sara Jane. If I can find the button, there it is.
Hi.
How are you doing? And as everybody knows, Sarah is more famously known for being paranormally blonde and being get haunted. But today we shut those doors. You're not paranormally blonde. You're not get haunted. You're just Sarah Jane here today. So this I'm grateful for.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm grateful for that moment. Thank you so much.
So let's. I mean, there is so much to know about you. Like I said, I got to physically meet you in person once, and I mean, and it's just that short little brief interaction. I mean, I always it every time I think of the day I met you, it always makes me smile because it was just one of those days where you unexpectedly meet somebody who you've followed on social media for so long.
That was the Mid-Michigan Paracon, which happened to be my first Paracon to ever go to at all as a guest or otherwise. And I remember I specifically wore my B. And I was looking at some tables. I happened to be with my daughter and her friend, and I hear from behind me, "Is that's Paranormally Blend? I think that's Paranormal." And it's like, oh, like it was so crazy to hear that. And right away, you and Michael John were beyond kind and gracious to me, and just made me feel like, you said it felt like you'd know me. I felt like, yeah, we were just, oh my gosh, hi guys, and just immediately um, it was comfortable and we talked, and you were so kind to be like, I will introduce you to you. You were right there. Like, let me introduce you to this person. Let me take you over here. And, you don't always see that. I think even in this field, you don't really see people offering their kindness and their time to introduce you to people they know like that. So I appreciated that day always. I think of it often.
Well, and but to me, that's kind of how I got introduced into the paranormal community. I went to my very first Paracon back in 2014 to the MI Paracon. Didn't even know a Paracon existed.
Mm,
I was fairly new into the paranormal world, so jumped in my car, drove all the way up to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, not even realizing there was a Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Because when I think of Sault Ste. Marie, we have a Sault Ste. Marie, Canada, which is just
yeah.
right across the border. So I went up there and I was nervous as hell because I'm not a public person. I'm a very private person, and here I was way out of my element. Like I
Mm,
could not even believe like how nervous I was. And um so I went in and the very first so-called para celebrity that I met was Jeff Belanger, who is of course the researcher for Ghost Adventures.
mm,
I met him and it was just he was really good to talk to and I was like, "Okay, this is not so bad." So I then I was walking around and I was just talking to people because people were just asking me who I was because they didn't know who I was. Here I was, some stranger, and I didn't realize how tight the paranormal community was. It's
mm.
like they can recognize a stranger.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was walking around and I was doing all these things, and then I ran into a guy named Mike Hartman, and he goes, "I hear you're from Canada," and I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I'm from Hamilton, Ontario." I was like, "Oh, wow, this is cool." So here I'm meeting a fellow Canadian
Yeah.
who just happened to be living in Michigan with his wife. But yeah, and he goes, "Oh, how many of these you been to?" I said, "This is the first one. I don't know anybody." Well, sure enough, he grabbed me. He goes, "All right, let's go," and he introduced me to like
Oh,
everybody in the paranormal. So I have kind of held that tradition
mhm.
into when I see people who've never been to a Paracon before, I kind of like take them by the hands, like, come on, let me introduce you to some people so you can kind of feel more comfortable.
Yeah. Well, thank
So
you for that. Thank you for being that person and paying it forward. It is a beautiful thing to do.
yeah, no, no, but for sure, but this show's not about me. This is about you
Uh-oh.
and all
Uh-oh.
my crazy adventures. Um, So you're into podcasting, you're into event organization. So what really drove you into podcasting?
Well, I had I had a team. I have a team. Have been in the paranormal for a really long time, and there was this awesome lady who was friends with me. I didn't really know her, but followed her on Facebook. And she reached out one day and she was like, "Hey, I want to start a podcast and I want to do it with you and somebody else that is on Facebook as well." And she brought Dee Dee Drabell and I together, and we had a show called A Haunt Mess. And it was cool. I'd never in a million years thought about doing podcasting as an at-home mom. I really didn't know anything about it. I didn't go to school for broadcasting or anything like that, right? So to be honest with you, I was just like, it's a challenge. I'm, believe it or not, have very shy moments. So it wasn't something that I was comfortable with, but I was like, I'm not going to say no. Like I want to do this. I want to challenge myself. Um, so we started the podcast. And in the beginning, it was a recorded thing. And not real weirdly enough, recording was never great for me. I kind of always sounded like I was giving reports, or it was weird. It was a hard go for me, but I convinced the ladies to try their hand at just doing it live. And found it was way more comfortable. And to use your word, I think it's because it just was, I was able to be myself. And if I messed up, I messed up. Like it just didn't matter to me. I think knowing that we could stop the recording or edit it out, that was always in my head. And I think I overacted or something. But when I'm on live, it was just easier to let it flow out and be me. So we did that for maybe a year. I think I feel bad because it happened right around COVID. When it sort of ended. And the person who got the podcast going was moving on to other things and was ready to put that show to bed. And Dee Dee was like, I'm not done. And I'm like, I'm not done either. Like now I'm into this. And so Paranormally Blonde was created. And yeah, so then here we are 3 years later.
And I mean, I mean, for me to be getting into podcasting, it was very scary because, like I said, I don't do well. I mean, I do a lot better hiding behind a camera to talk to people than I do public speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Michael John just started doing public speaking this like the later half of 2024. It's been a complete uplifting experience, especially afterwards when people come to you and tell you so many good things about
Yeah.
your talk and everything. So you know people are able to relate to you. And I mean, I know when we first started doing podcasting, we're out at events and people were coming up, "Oh, we love your show." And I'm
Yeah.
like, I almost feel like saying, "I'm sorry I wasted an hour of your life."
No, no.
But it was just it was very weird when people came up to say really nice things because you're not thinking like, wow, there are people who are actually paying attention to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's been a wonderful journey. And then um so with you, the podcasting, but we're gonna dial it back before all of this because obviously your spiritual journey has been long before
Mm.
Paranormally Blonde. Um, you're very caring and very loving parent, which is awesome because I text you one day and here you were driving in the middle of a snowstorm trying to get your daughter back to school, and I'm like, that's the kind of parent I am. I would do that. And here you are, you're doing it. And I mean, that says great things about who you are and what you will do. I mean, I know we always say we will do anything for our kids because let's face it, they're the only reasons why a lot of us are still here. And I just had, I don't know what's been going on, but
Uh-oh, you have a
my,
haunting right now?
yes, I tell you, this weekend has been nothing but wow, that was crazy. I'm never coming out. Me and Michael John just realized we cannot be in the same car together because too many strange things happen.
Uh-oh. Your energy's too much. It's too much.
Well, we do a lot of these synchronicity things, and so. but yeah, that's a story for another that's a story for another time. But
You come on Paranormally Blonde and we'll talk about it.
sure, sure, I would love to.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but so you're also a Reiki master. I'm not even going to try to attempt the type of Reiki that you do because I've never heard of it before.
That's
So
Usui. Usui is
that's Sui.
traditional. Yeah, it's
Okay.
traditional Japanese Reiki. Yeah.
So what got you
Mhm.
wanting to do Reiki?
I was trying to think of about how long ago it was, and I think I landed on about 7 years ago. I was asked to join a group of women in my community. You know, um, have I've lived here for about 24 years and didn't really have a big circle, don't have a big circle of female friends. Um, and there was a group, one woman actually, that I knew just through some other friends, didn't really spend a lot of time with her. But she had asked if I would want to join this group of women that she had hand chosen. I think there was 5 of us to join a tribe. And this particular tribe was geared around a book called, I think it's called A Tribe Called Bliss. And it's just women sharing these moments together and kind of digging through traumas and questions and weak moments, but being able to talk to women, because I'm just going to put it out there. Sometimes, the woman on women relationship, some of the hardest ones you can have. That's not the easiest combination all the time. So I, again, as I'm talking about this, actually realizing it was a little bit like the podcast, which is I knew it wasn't going to be easy. And I knew that I needed to challenge myself and put myself in that uncomfortable moment with women that really I only sort of knew one and didn't know the other ones at all. Um, but it was a really great experience. We met every I think we met every 2 weeks. We'd go over a chapter and answer the questions, um, and in all that, one of the women, was a Reiki master, and I loved everything about the way she described it. And so I asked for a session. She did the 3. You buy them in packages of 3. So we did the 3 sessions, and they were life changing for me. It was everything I expected and not at all what would have ever imagined. So I was like, I must know more about this. I had a few years before that, I had one previous experience with Reiki at a psychic fair, and I did not enjoy it. I was like, this is not for me, not what I want. But doing it with my other friend, those 3 were incredible. And I started my journey with a Udemy class. Um, and I took about 9 months. I gave myself all sorts of time. I studied it. I have a giant binder printed out full of all the information, the medical, the science research, the history. I have it all. And I would just read it and practice it. And it's been a huge, huge, I think, addition to my life to probably get me through more things than I realize on a daily basis.
So for those that don't know, could you just kind of briefly say what Reiki is? Because there's a lot of people out there that don't even realize what it is. And I mean, I've had it done a few times, and
Yeah,
I think, yeah, it's more private. I don't know if I would really want to be out where people walking by
yeah,
staring at me getting
no,
a Reiki. Because I mean, for I do go to events and I see these people doing this,
yeah,
and I'm like, well, good for them, but to me, the
mhm,
energy that these events
mhm.
have, negative, good, indifferent, it is hard. I mean, I think Reiki is a private thing. Like do it in a setting where the environment is right.
I
So,
couldn't agree more.
I'm gonna let you explain to the people that are watching this show now, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everybody on the side here knows what Reiki is because it is all of the Get Haunted family, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys popping in and saying hello. I really do miss it over there. You guys are like the bomb over there, and like I said, I enjoy what you guys are doing. But anyways,
We
back to
appreciate
Reiki.
that. Back to Reiki. So the short answer is Reiki really is, universe energy that you meditate and sort of bring into yourself to help um, even and balance out your seven main chakras, right? And it's just about sort of moving out the bad and sort of restoring the good. So Dr. Usui 1000% believed you can heal your body. That is what we are meant to do. We are self healers. And so he was a Buddhist, which means a lot to me. It's why I chose that form. Since there has been many new versions of Reiki that kind of fall under New Age, and not really the traditional sense. So I try to keep it as traditional to the Japanese version that I can. And so he did. He believed, and it was something that was passed down in his family, thousands of years old. And he healed a lot of things about himself, and he took it to another doctor, and they were utilizing this moment of meditation to self heal in hospitals, and they saw it make great strides in people's health. So, to me, what Reiki is a reminder. It is a moment to sit in meditation and to be reminded just how magical you truly are.
Right,
And I always try to let people know I'm like you, Dale. I think it is a very private moment. I think that the whole point of Reiki is to eliminate distractions so you can
right.
focus in on your body and mind and soul to understand what needs healing. And, you know, when we have this epiphany about ourselves, right? Because the emotions can come out, right? These things that happen to you during these Reiki meditation moments, they are so personal, and I think you need those moments to not be bombarded with everybody else's energy. I couldn't agree more with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, for the few times that I did have it, and we see Rob's just here for the snacks.
Always. He's such an ass.
And this is why we love him so much. Um, but no, and you're right. I mean, the emotions because I just learned a new thing. It's called cord cutting, and
Hmm.
I was so amazed. Like, yeah, you kind of think about it, but when you really sit down and you do it, uh, Reiki is one of those things that when you realign every chakra in
Hmm.
your body, when
Hmm.
it's been out of line for so long, it's the emotions, the
Hmm.
tears, the
Hmm.
you because you can feel everything that you've been going through kind of just vanish
Hmm.
like vapor into the air.
Yeah.
And I once described it. Somebody goes, "What would be the best way you would describe your feeling afterwards?" I said, "Feeling like you've slept for 20 hours straight, but
Hmm.
waking up on a cloud."
Hmm. Yeah, well, you bring up a good point. We absorb so much of our traumas and our bad experiences, and we don't let them go. And we see it more today. We have cell phones and computers and 24-hour network, television network to watch. We're constantly distracted from our self-work, and I think you absorb that, and your chakras, if you just talk about the seven main chakras, they get all out of whack, and they're all, some are over here and some are over there. And
Right,
and you don't you're constantly living in that fight or flight. Our nervous systems are shot. They just are. And it's very, I think we see it more today. It's so much more prevalent because of things like social media. We never have this moment to break fight or flight. It is a
right.
constant battle. And we forget that we ourselves can take a step back, heal what we need to heal, and set those boundaries so we can move
Right.
forward with more strength and a clearer vision of what we should be doing.
No, and I mean, right now, I think the world needs one big Reiki session. So,
Yes,
because
it does.
this whole world is like, I wake up and, I avoid the news like the plague.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, social media is not any better.
Mhm.
People need to learn to put down their phones.
Mhm.
Like for me, my greatest joy is shutting off my cell phone and going to walk through nature.
Yeah.
And that is my realignment of myself. Um, by you know, but with the world and the chaos that's going on right now, you don't know, and it's hard to turn on anything because it's so miserable. Like I would wish somebody would create a news station that only talks about positive things. Like you don't hear about all the good work
Mhm.
that Sarah helped an old lady across the road today. No, but you hear about the guy who robbed her after she got across the road.
Yeah. Well, right, and I think what if there was really going to be a solution, right? If we really wanted to sit down and talk about, we know the world in life and universe, it's all balanced with negative and positive. We can't
Right.
expect it to be positive all the time. But I do think that because we have so many distractions and we have so many different avenues to take in, you know, different people that we would never have even have met, but we see all their things on social media, right? In any form, YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, and we have turned, instead of looking at our own selves and working on our own shadows, right? We're so busy, you know, comparing and having opinions and forming narratives on people we don't truly know, but we think
Right.
our opinion is suddenly the most important opinion about that person, when the reality is, how do you speak about yourself? Like, do you know yourself well enough to be sitting out there and doing shows about everybody else or post about everybody else? The reality is, no, none of us know ourselves that well to do that to somebody else. So
Yeah, I mean, um, like Dustin Perry always says, like being kind is the greatest thing somebody
mhm,
can do. Like one small gesture, if we can just be good to one another instead of, you
mhm,
know, just blurting out whatever other people are saying. And I mean, this is the ugliness of the world we live in today. And it's unfortunate because good people who are out there just not even looking for acknowledgement, but helping other people guide along their path, because life's journey is not an easy one
mhm,
whatsoever. People come into our lives for many different reasons. Some are here to teach us a lesson, some are
mhm,
here to be a part of a lesson. And this is where I feel life is being misinterpreted, as far as, why are we really here? What is our purpose in life? And why do we do the things that we do? Well, when you really dig down deep and you talk about who we are, and we are just a ball of energy living in
mhm,
a meat suit that needs knowledge. That energy needs to know things. This is why you've probably had this, is where, you know, y- somebody will say something, but you don't know why you know the answer, or you don't know how
mhm,
you already know that. It's because who we were before. And I mean, this is going into areas that people don't believe in, but I believe our energy just keeps getting reincarnated for centuries and years, and
mhm,
it just never dies. But it's so filled with knowledge that
mhm,
it will come to us when that information really needs to be known. And um it's a hard thing for people to understand about the journey. And yeah, we have to know who we are before we can pass judgment on anybody else. But this is what makes the world, like, yeah, we have to live in a world with yin and yang, as because if everybody was just up and happy all the time, the world would actually suck after a while.
right. I think the word is toxic positivity now, is the new pop phrase, right? Toxic positivity, which is not acknowledging the negative side. But I think to something you're hitting on, I think there is so much trauma and things that, we've not been teaching, a lot of our generations,
Right,
self-coping mechanisms. And it is why I find things like Reiki or any energy work to be so important in somebody's life, because, when we are out of whack, when we are out of balance and we feel that angst and that sadness, it's natural to want to sort of make somebody else feel that way. And we justify and we form narratives about each other, so we can feel good about what we're saying about somebody else and not have to work on ourselves. And I think that is a really sad place to be, but I do think we are so overstimulated and so distracted with everything that goes on around us. Again, I think we are stuck in fight or flight
right,
constantly. And I think everybody, um, it's easy to share a meme about enlightenment and spiritualism. That's the easiest thing you can do. But I find so many love and light people to not really be the love and light that it's like the persona becomes more important than the action. And um it's okay to be pissed off, it's okay to not like somebody,
right,
it's never okay to destroy. So where do we take a step back and go, okay, this is human, I don't like this person, and you know what, you don't even have to have a good reason, I don't even
right.
care why you don't like somebody. But I think to take it a step further and decide I'm going to go out and destroy and then call it a cause.
Right,
This is where social media, the distractions, we completely lose sight of who we are in that journey. And we need to all stop and just be like, look, stop with the memes. If you're not going to live it or even try to live it
right.
day by day, don't preach it. Just don't. I rather see you be who you are.
Right, and, and yeah, it's easy to click a button and say, "Oh, yeah, and I know a lot of people, see, I love posting feel-good stuff
Yeah.
because, you know and I do it because sometimes I'm going through a rough time, and
Yeah.
that means something to me, and, it's like doing shows like this. I might be struggling, but you
Yeah.
know what? Somebody's feel-good story or the way somebody handles themselves, I'm going to use that into trying to overcome, like,
Mhm.
oh, Dale's a horrible guy, but he's trying to do better.
Well, we should remind each other, right? And I do love you do post those, but you also post the real, like, the moments, right? You don't hide from the dark moments and the light moments. And I think that's why when you do that, Dale, it does. There, and I do the same thing. There are lots of times I post something that is, more of an enlightenment piece. And and 9 times out of 10, that is for me. It is a reminder
Right,
for me to be like,
right.
"Oh, I like that lesson, and I wanna put it there." And like you said, you don't know who might also be needing that at that moment.
Yeah, no, and if you could just say one thing that makes somebody stop to think about why they're going through something at this time, and I mean, we're all struggling. I mean, I don't know a single person in this world that's not
Mhm,
struggling right now,
mhm,
and it might be emotionally, financially, whatever
mhm,
it is. But just to know that, how you feel right now doesn't mean you have to keep feeling that for the rest of the day. There are ways and tools to
mhm,
bring you out of that negative thinking process, and it is hard. And I mean, it's hard for me to talk about who I truly am because I was always brought up that who I was didn't really matter. What I had to say didn't really matter, and that I was just here to please other people, and that's the way I lived my life for about a good 30 years until bad things really, like, break down inside. And so the journey is,
mhm.
people trying to do their best each and every day and try to at least I try to do at least one uplifting thing at least once a day for somebody who might be having the worst day of their life, or they could be having the greatest day of their life, but I did something. But it's not because I want to be recognized for it. It's because it's like I want to shine a little bit of light where there's darkness in this world right now.
Mhm. I I love that. I love that.
But so you said something a little bit earlier that I want to touch on because I mean I don't know a lot about it, but you talked about how Reiki was stemmed from Buddhism, and everybody that would even remotely know anything about that, it is a very spiritual. Buddhism is one of the oldest spiritual practices that I can think of.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't read the Bible that often, but I just know from a lot of just journey. You know,
Yeah.
you meet certain people in your life, and they tell you, and it's just like you've always heard, especially from certain people. But can you talk about that and what that means to you, and how you've used it
Mhm.
to kind of guide you along your spiritual path?
So it was probably at 14. I feel like as I get older here, time is like sort of slipping from me here, but maybe
I know
14.
29 is a hard age to be at, Sarah. I
It is,
know.
it
It's
is.
it's it's
30s
it's
are gonna be crazy.
oh,
30s are gonna be so crazy. So it's maybe 14, 15 years ago. So I lost my dad in 2006. And my
oh my
mom had
god.
and my mom had
Th
passed in 1997. So when my dad passed, I had two daughters. My youngest was one at the time, and I'm the baby of my family. So for me to not really have my parents around was like for many people, they weren't there for the pieces of my life that I'd always taken for granted, right? That they would be there for. So I was brought up Christian. I was born Christian, baptized, went to Sunday school. We went to Lutheran church. And my best friend, when I was a child, they were Methodist. And so I was constantly going to church with them, was in their Sunday school and their choir, loved everything about it. So I always kind of fell on the more Christian narrative in my life. And after my dad passed, it was a couple years after that. Um, I had gone to Barnes and Nobles and I found a couple books, and one of them was something that my mom always really loved. Max Lucado is a Christian writer, and so I'd gotten a book sort of for my mom, and I picked a book. I didn't really know. I don't know, for whatever reason, I felt like it was for my dad. My dad was a very private kind of guy. So the book was The Shack, which would not be something my dad, I think, would read. But for whatever reason, it just kind of felt like I needed to get that book. So I left that book on a coffee table and didn't touch it for a while. And um, had been thinking of my dad one day, and I was like, I'm just gonna start reading this book. And I read that book in 2 days, cried the whole time, as I read this book. Um, and something clicked for me from that book. And my dad, I would always describe him as, I would describe him now as a Buddhist cowboy. He was definitely a cowboy at heart, but very Buddhist. Never talked about it growing up. I don't even know that he even knew anything about it. He was just natural. He was a natural at it. Um, so I started, to do some research and found a couple amazing books. Um, and it was every book that I started to take in just resonated so deep within me, that I couldn't really get out of the Christian narrative. Um, so I said one day, I'm going to try 1 year, and I'm not going to use any Christian narrative in my talk or in my practices. I'm just going to give it 1 year, and after that 1 year, I will decide what I want to do. And I have to be honest, I never looked back after that year, and that was about 14 years ago, 13 years ago. I just continued on, and for me, what Buddhism probably really has as a practice, and that's what it is. It's a philosophy, it's a practice, it's not a religion. You can most certainly add it to any religion that you practice.
Right.
um, it was about going inward. It was about going inward. And again, just like Reiki, understanding how much power you have within yourself. And we forget that. I forget that even today,
Right.
how much we can really control. Um, one of the biggest lessons there is pain is inevitable, right? But suffering is your choice. And I had to go back and look at how I was living my life, where I found myself stuck in ugly patterns, complaining or feeling sorry for myself or not feeling good enough, or it was just one thing after another. And the more I added those practices in, which is not easy, and you have good days and you have bad days, and you have great weeks and you have shit months. I mean, that's just how we roll as humans. Um, but the more I implemented those practices and the more I believed in myself, what I can even look back on is just how important it is to believe in me. And Dale, you had asked me at one point, you had said, I'd love you to be on the show, and we made arrangements for me to be on, and I had to come back to Dale and just go, you know what, I can't do it. I'm
Right.
really in a bad space, and I'm not even remotely, I don't think I can talk about this. You've got this beautiful show of people overcoming, and I'm like in the process of like figuring it out. I haven't overcome anything.
Right.
So it was like, I don't think I should be on.
Right. Um, but and I respected that, and it's good when people know their limit, and they know that if they can't be into something, it's best just to step away for a second. And and this is what I do appreciate about you and watching you over the last 3 years, and all the growth that you've been going through. And unfortunately, I've also had to watch you deal with a lot of BS that's been going on as well. And watching, like, I don't get to see the behind the scenes, like once the camera goes off, and what Sarah Jane is like. But it's a constant struggle for anybody to even admit that they can't even do something. Most people would have just said, "Yeah, I'll go through with it," and it would not been as authentic as it is right now. So I do appreciate that you knew that no, you did want to do something that you weren't just feeling at the moment. And this is what life's journey is about: is knowing when is the right time to do something, because I believe everything happens for a reason, at the right time, at the right moment, at the right time. You have to be in the right headspace.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I remember, for some people, obviously, Get Haunted folks here will know, you were part of our podcast program. You guys moved on. And I remember when you're like, I want to do this. I want to do this new show. And I was so excited, and nobody better to do this type of show than you. And to hear the concept of what you were going to do, um, and you hear so many amazing there. You're exactly right. Everybody and anyone is going through everything and anything at any time. It just, you don't get to make those calls about anyone. You just don't get to say somebody isn't struggling like you. And we all struggle different. And when we first agreed to me coming on, being public is hard. It's hard because I wasn't a person that would put myself out there. I think, Dale, you and I were a lot alike like that. I was, shyer. I shrink up, when I'm in crowds. So when I got to have this beautiful platform, um, with Get Hunted, to be able to challenge myself, and you're exactly right, right? We don't grow in the comfortable moments, we grow in the uncomfortable moments. And unfortunately, a lot of other people have decided what my uncomfortable moments are going to be.
Right.
But it is a daily reminder. sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, but usually daily. Um, just how resilient we are, and that we have we have come so far away from the things that we have been taught as children and that we teach our own children, right? Be who you are, be it loud and do what you want to do and don't ever let anybody take your light from you. But then you get on social media and it is about go after that person, dim their light, they're a piece of shit. We forget that our words and what we are doing to people, it leaves scars, and you can't I don't want to say you can't undo what you say, but once those words leave and those
Yeah.
actions leave your mouth and your being, you have to understand also what that is doing to yourself. You're
Right.
not just hurting somebody else, you're hurting yourself. And I think, um, to be able to remind myself, and I wasn't, I think we were going to do this either early November, but it was sort of after a big sort of thing blew up. And, it makes you stop and look at yourself and think, why am I doing this?
Right.
Why do I choose to put myself out there on a daily? But then you're reminded by such good souls like yourself and people on the side here, that just because a small group of people can't see it doesn't
Right.
mean you don't matter. You do matter, and you will resonate with someone. You can't resonate with everybody on the internet, and you shouldn't want to. It's
No,
you
you
should.
really don't. No. I mean, I do agree. We are so much alike. Like, I did not realize you lost your dad in 2006. I lost my biological father in 2005, and I lost my stepdad in 2006. I always say that I was raised and given so much love by two guys that kind of made me into who I am today. And I did lose that for the longest time because really I always thought that I was a piece of garbage, a piece of shit that people just knew how to walk on and to use to their own liking and then throw me aside just like a candy wrapper. And so yeah, I mean that I am so sorry that you had to deal with that. And I mean, to me, I can relive my dad's death like it was yesterday, but don't ask me what I ate 3 hours ago because I wouldn't be able
Yeah,
to tell you. And it's
yeah.
funny how certain stuff keeps with you through a
Mhm.
journey and through a path and where we're going, and if people would just take a second, and I mean, I know haven't always lived this way of life, but I've learned more and more through the last years, knowing some of the greatest people in the paranormal industry that, you know, you can only give so much of yourself to people without damaging yourself, and that you just need to give it out, and the ones that it's going to resonate with, those are the people that deserve your attention in your journey, to be a part of your journey. So like I said, being part of Get Haunted was a great motivational thing for myself. I mean, that was like, when it was time to walk away, it was like one of the hardest decisions. I mean, I remember talking to you and Rob, and I was practically in tears because it
Oh,
was like I was going through a divorce.
yeah, no,
You
you're
know,
still
it
part
was
of
it
our
was it was it
family.
was crazy because, I was like, "Wow, why is this so hard?" But it's just because when you believe in something,
Yeah,
um, it's hard to let go of something that you feel so strongly about, but in order for you to grow,
yeah,
you kinda have to take the training wheels off, you kinda have to get out there and just see that every piece of tool you were taught by a group of amazing people if those tools really work or if it's just blowing wind up of somebody's behind they're really not that good, but you're saying, "Oh, you're the greatest thing ever." So, hey, take off training wheels, you fall over. Nope.
Well, yeah, and I think Dale, the reality is, it's first and foremost, I think finding this space and what Rob had in mind and his vision and me being able to step in and sort of having those moments to connect with great people and it's kind of like what you said, sometimes you meet somebody and they're only a part of this journey for a little while, but it was so impactful. But for me to be able to go out and make sure that in those moments, I see these people, and doing paracons and events, to be able to look at somebody, to be able to hug somebody is my favorite form of Reiki, by the way. So when you get a hug from me, they're a little tighter, they're a little longer. And I definitely like to go full on chest because I want our heart chakras to sync up. But I think, to be able to do that and to remind myself that you can put yourself out there and you can find those souls that were meant to be found. And that you can survive the ones that you probably wished you didn't find. But it is a reminder. Again, they're always reminders to me that we are resilient. Buddhist practices for me are always the most beautiful way for me to remind myself that when we focus on our own being and our own relationship with our own being, it's so much more important than making sure everybody else, feels validated. Because if we can't validate ourselves, if we can't self-cope, then how are we giving that to
Right.
somebody else? How are we validating somebody else? So, I think there's a bigger picture here. I think that, I'm certainly not, and Rob's certainly not the only people to get attacked for what we do.
Right.
And somebody's going to always say they're full of shit. They don't believe what they say. Well, what I will say is this. Um, Even the people that have gone above and beyond to make sure that I know I'm not liked. The reality is I still always extend well wishes because, I know what it is to feel alone at times. And I know what it felt like to be left out at times. But I also knew in those moments that it was for me to understand who I was a little bit better. And I couldn't do that in a group setting. So I'm grateful for this time and I will, continue to push forward and continue to use the lessons that I choose. And also, to be able to talk with somebody like yourself, Dale, I feel it's another open platform to let people be who they are.
Right.
It will resonate with someone somewhere, but even so, just let it resonate with yourself.
Yeah, no, it is good to just I say it's good to be vulnerable once in a while because you've got to let it out. You've got to show who you are and show all the battle scars because it's not a competition. It's never been about a competition as long as I've known you and I've known Rob. It's never been about a competition with anybody else in the world. You guys are just two passionate people who obviously love what you guys do, believe in what you guys do, and I just think that there can be a lot of jealousy in this world because other people never thought of it or don't have the cojones to do it themselves. And that is sad because you know what? You can do anything you want to do. And I'm living proof of that today because I don't have my sidekick Michael John with me doing this show. And that was the scariest thing I've ever done because now I'm being vulnerable all by myself and going, but this is what makes me so happy
Yeah.
that I get to share stories about people who've inspired me
Yeah.
to be a better person, as well as people who inspire other people around them to be better people, and not even looking to get an award for saying good things all the time. And I mean, So I truly appreciate everything you've done
Thank you.
and the love and the support. And you know what? Like I said, from the moment I met you, I pick on people's energies, and I say I'm usually resonate with people that can meet my vibe and my passion. And it's very hard because that is a very, very small group. And it's really good that the paranormal community is there for me because as people will find out in my new book that's going to be coming out, just how much the paranormal has really saved my life. Like, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with Sarah today if it wasn't for the paranormal. I can guarantee it. I'd be talking to everybody through the speaker box. Like Rob would be kind of contacting me. I can guarantee
Oh,
it.
and that's such a that story.
Oh, I think
This
Sarah,
sort of this. Oh,
you
did I
froze there
move
for.
around so much? I froze. I know. I moved. I'm sorry. Rob's on the side going, she moved and now she's frozen. I know. Sorry. I'm like, my hands want to move around.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, I think because of the paranormal, so many people have found open space to be you use the word vulnerable and raw, and I think nothing like talking about death, right? The afterlife, that makes us realize, like, what are we really doing here in the living world before we move on to our eternal life? What is it that how should we be acting and treating each other? So I'm glad you're still here, Dale. You make a huge difference.
And I appreciate that. And, I always say there's a dash between two numbers in everybody's life. It's that dash has to mean something and it has to be full of life and it has to be doing what brought you the most happiness. So I hope like a lot of people can just learn to be happy and do the things that make them happy and not worry about what everybody else is doing. Who cares what shirt Gonzo over there is wearing today? And if it
Yeah.
offends you, so what? You don't have to stare at him.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, if what I do offends you, I don't mean to, but the fact is I'm so tired of being bottled up, put in a box, shoved in the corner because I believe everything that I believe in, everything that I have to say does, is, and will always mean something to somebody now. And if it doesn't, well, you don't have to listen to me. There's a thousand other or millions of other YouTube channels you can go listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but before I let you go, so before the end of the show, I always like to read off quotes that mean something to me, or I've just come across, and it just kind of resonated with me. So this one is a quote by Steve Jobs, who probably everybody knows who Steve Jobs is. And it says, if you are working on something that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you. And that is exactly what I do. It's like I feel really great that I get to do shows like this with people like you and to make a difference with somebody that truly cares. And like I said, you are an amazing soul. You've got beautiful energy. And I mean, for anybody who wants to talk bad, they've never probably been in the same room with you long enough to know that anything about you. So
I don't know. And if they don't like me, that's okay too. I have to be okay with that piece of it, right? But I
yeah,
appreciate those words.
well, like I said, not everybody has to like me, but then not everybody has good taste either.
There you go. Perfect quote. Quote by Dale.
So one other one is, this says, success is not final and failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And that was by Winston Churchill. That is another one. And yeah, I mean, just because, but success in people's mind means different things. It's
Mhm.
like, for the longest time, success for me was just being able to get out of bed and to function for the longest time. That was successful to me.
Yeah.
But everybody's mind of successful is different. But it's knowing when you fail is not not the worst thing to do. It only makes us grow even more. You have to fail in order to succeed, really.
I would say if you haven't failed, you haven't tried, right?
That's right. That is so true. So before I let you go, tell people what you're going to be up to. I know you guys are winding down your 2024 season.
Yeah.
Uh, what is 2025 looking like for Sarah Jane, Get Haunted, and that other guy? What's his name? Oh,
God,
the
what's
guy with
his
the funny
name?
beard.
Gosh.
Oh,
Yeah,
Rob. That's it.
Rob, yeah.
The cult master.
The cult leader. 2025 is really shaping into something really cool for Get Haunted. The whole just of what we do is opening the door for everybody in the community to have a voice and to step into their own journey and sharing it. So we're winding down, but December 28th, we do have an event at New Egypt Historical Museum, which is in New Egypt, New Jersey. So if anybody is looking for something to do during the holidays, this is a perfect thing for you to do. You can go to extremeticketing.com, and that is extreme with an X, ticketing.com for those tickets to New Egypt Historical Museum. And then we sort of go dark a little bit, but we have so many amazing projects. We have Get Haunted International, where we're working with Wales and Scotland, and possibly somebody in Australia actually is interested. So we're opening those doors for this is for the community. This is for people all over North America to be able to work with other people anywhere in the world to learn about new theories or thoughts or techniques. We do have Patreon started for the diehard Get Haunted fans and family, and also Paranormally Blonde, where we get to open up a little bit more, right? Like where we actually get to be a little freer with our conversations in the sense of breaking up, like open some of those theories out there about the paranormal that kind of get people a little bit tweaked. When you sort of try to say like this traditional thought in paranormal, no, we're going to break it open and we want to ask some deeper questions, and we kind of all get to have these big open conversations together. So we do have Patreon. You guys can head over there, and then we have right now like four or five new locations that we're adding to our calendar. So we got a lot of stuff going on.
That is so good. I'm so happy you guys continue to grow. You guys are definitely putting yourselves out there and not letting anything slow you guys down. And that I can only be so happy about because, like I said,
Thank you.
you are one of the most genuine people I've ever met in my life, and I'm so glad that I can connect with you today, not just on this platform, but it always seems like if I have a question, you're always willing to pick up and be there to answer whatever I have, or even just give me some lightning information, or just
That's what it's about, right? We're all here to, what is it? We're all walking each other home, right? It's what we should be doing.
that is true. So
Yeah.
with that, Sarah, thank you so much. It's been
Thank
a great
you.
pleasure spending a
Thank you.
whole hour with you. I appreciate you, and I look forward to hopefully getting together with you sometime in
Yeah,
2025.
we'll do
You know,
events.
it's sad that I could throw a rock and probably hit your house, and but yet I don't see you.
Yeah,
But then
we'll get
hope.
together. We'll do some fun stuff. Yeah.
So that was, folks. I appreciate everybody that was on the side watching throughout the show. It has been an amazing hour. This is Sarah Jane. She is Paranormally Blonde, which you can catch each and every Monday night, 7 p.m. Over on Patreon. And is it still on Get Haunted YouTube channel or?
It's Paranormally Blonde YouTube, and the Get Haunted main page on Facebook.
There you have it, folks. Check it
Yeah.
out. Give this lady some love. She well deserves it. In the meantime, this is going to be my last show of the year. I couldn't think of a better guest to
Oh,
do this with than to the lovely Miss Sarah Jane. So I thank you for that. Watch for some upcoming shows for both Paranormal Voice with me and Michael John and Seeking Vibes. We are going to be back shortly into the new year. So who knows what we're going to be up to? You can always find those paranormal voice guys. They're everywhere, as we've been told. So, with that, everybody, like I always say, tomorrow needs you. So, hang in tight. It's not the end of the world. I love you, and everybody have a great night.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Yes,
Happy holidays.
can we even say that without offending people?
Well, we said
Probably not.
holidays. It could mean a lot of different things.
Now my computer's really acting funny. Anyways, thank you, everybody. I think I got this. I'm new at this now. Have a good night. Thank you.